News of the Sol system battle spread through the galaxy in hours. On the concordant homeworld, Hyunwoo Kim watched as representatives from hundreds of species gathered in emergency session. The chamber that had been silent after the Velkath executed diplomats now buzzed with nervous energy. Impossible, a Taurian ambassador said. A single system defeated a Velkath armada? Not defeated, another voice corrected. Destroyed completely. Only 47 ships escaped. Hyunwoo stood and approached the speaking platform. All eyes turned to him. The Velkath declared war, he said simply. Humanity responded. What did you expect? That we would surrender our homeworld without a fight? But the weapons you used, a Frenali diplomat protested. Autonomous systems. Kinetic bombardment on that scale. Those technologies are banned. The concordant is dissolved, Hyunwoo reminded them. The Velkath ended the peace. They ended the rules. Humanity simply adapted to the new reality. This is madness, someone said. If everyone starts using such weapons, then perhaps everyone should have thought about that before allowing the Velkath to start a war, Hyunwoo interrupted. His voice was calm but hard. For 3,000 years, humanity followed the rules. We were peaceful. We were cooperative. And the moment someone decided peace was inconvenient, they threatened to exterminate us. What did you think would happen? The chamber fell silent. They had no answer. In Velkath space, the Empire's leadership met in crisis. The Empress Shrevna sat on her throne, listening to reports of the disaster. Her military commanders stood before her, making excuses. Krethvan was reckless, one admiral said. He underestimated the humans. We won't make that mistake again. How many ships do we have? Shrevna asked. 8,000, Your Majesty. More than enough to overwhelm Earth's defenses. Krethvan thought he had enough ships, Shrevna said coldly. He was wrong. What makes you think you'll do better? The admiral hesitated. Because we'll be prepared. We know their tactics now. We'll counter them. Will you? Shrevna looked at each of them. Send 4 fleets, not 1. Hit them from multiple directions, and don't underestimate them again. But on Earth, Admiral Somin Yoon had no intention of waiting for the next attack. She stood before her council, now expanded to include representatives from 3 species who had secretly contacted Earth offering alliance. The Taurians, whose homeworld was also threatened by Velkath expansion. The Frenali, who had been conquered by the Velkath centuries ago and wanted revenge. And the Kelrath, a warrior species who respected strength. We're taking the offensive, Somin announced. The Velkath have forward operating bases in 8 systems. We're going to hit all of them simultaneously. Can we afford to divide our forces? Asked the Taurian representative. We can't afford not to, Jiwon Park explained. She had been promoted again, now commanding all human military operations. If we sit here and wait, they'll have time to adapt. Time to build counters to our tactics. We need to keep them off balance. General Tai Hyung Shin brought up tactical displays. My ground forces are ready. We'll use orbital insertion, fast and brutal. Take the garrison worlds before they can organize a defense. What about casualties? The Frenali asked nervously. Their species had suffered terribly in previous wars. They feared the cost of fighting. There will be casualties, Somin said bluntly. War always has a price. But if we don't fight now, the price will be extinction. Choose. The Frenali representative nodded slowly. We choose survival. The human fleets deployed. 10,000 ships moving through space toward Velkath territory. They traveled in small groups using multiple routes, making their intentions unclear until the last moment. Captain Doyun, Lee commanded a battle group heading for the Velkath garrison world of Kelvar 4. His ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Immediately, they detected the Velkath defense fleet, 200 ships orbiting the planet. They're trying to hail us, his communications officer said. Demanding we surrender. Ignore them, Doyun ordered. Deploy the drones. Millions of small autonomous units spread out from the human ships. The Velkath opened fire, but there were too many targets. The drones swarmed over the defense fleet like angry insects, disabling ships one by one. While the space battle raged, Taehyung Shin's ground forces launched. Transport ships dropped into the planet's atmosphere, protected by dense defensive shields. They deployed soldiers in armored drop pods that plummeted toward the surface at terrifying speeds. Commander Yoonji Kwan was in the first wave. Her enhanced body could withstand forces that would kill normal humans. She hit the ground running, her squad forming up around her. They had studied Velkath defensive tactics for years. They knew exactly how to break them. "Move fast," she ordered. "Don't give them time to think." Her soldiers were equipped with weapons designed for efficiency, not honor. Smart targeting systems that never missed, armor that adapted to enemy fire, enhanced reflexes that made them faster than any unmodified soldier. The Velkath garrison fought bravely. But bravery wasn't enough. The humans moved through their defenses like a scalpel, precise and unstoppable. In 48 hours, Kelvar 4 surrendered. The same pattern repeated across all 8 target systems. Human forces struck hard and fast. The Velkath defenders, used to traditional warfare, couldn't adapt quickly enough. Admiral Junho Han sat in his office, coordinating the psychological warfare campaign. He broadcast into Velkath space continuously. Images of human victories. Footage of Velkath soldiers surrendering. Messages from captured Velkath officers saying the war was unwinnable, but he also included something else. Offers of amnesty. Promises that Velkath soldiers who laid down their weapons would be treated fairly. Images of human forces providing medical care to wounded enemies. "Why are we showing mercy?" a junior officer asked. "They wanted to exterminate us." "Because we're not fighting the Velkath people," Junho explained. "We're fighting their empire, their leadership. The soldiers are just following orders. If we can make them question those orders, if we can make them see us as people instead of enemies, they'll stop fighting. That's cheaper than killing them all." The tactic worked. As human forces advanced through Velkath space, more and more soldiers surrendered. Entire garrisons laid down their weapons rather than face destruction. Some even provided intelligence about upcoming Velkath fleet movements. On Velkath worlds, protests began. Young people who had grown up during the long peace questioned why they were fighting at all. The humans hadn't started this war. The Empire had, and now the Empire was losing. Empress Shrevena watched her realm fracture. 3 colonial systems declared independence rather than continue fighting. 2 admirals were executed for suggesting negotiations. The military was beginning to turn against itself. "We need to end this," one of her advisors said quietly, "before there's nothing left to save." "End it?" Shrevena's voice was bitter. "By surrendering? By admitting the humans defeated us?" "By surviving," the advisor insisted. "Your Majesty, we've lost 60% of our military. 30 systems are in rebellion. The economy is collapsing. If we continue, the Velkath Empire will cease to exist. Better to negotiate now while we still have something to negotiate with." Shrevena knew he was right, but her pride wouldn't let her admit it. Not yet. On Earth, Minji Choi worked in a field hospital treating wounded soldiers. She had helped design the weapons that caused these injuries. Now she tried to heal the damage. A young soldier lay on a bed, missing both legs. He would survive. Human medicine was advanced enough to regrow limbs, but the psychological scars would last longer. "Was it worth it?" he asked Minji. "All this death?" Minji thought carefully before answering. "The Velkath gave us 2 choices, surrender or fight. There was no third option, so we fought. And yes, there's death, there's pain, there's loss, but there's also survival. Your family is alive, your world is safe. That's worth something." "But we're killing them too," the soldier said. "Thousands of Velkath are dying." "Yes," Minji agreed. "They are. War is ugly. It's brutal. It's everything we tried to leave behind when we joined the Concordat. But the alternative was extinction. I'd rather live with guilt than die with clean hands." The soldier closed his eyes. "I just wish it would end." "Soon," Minji promised. "It will end soon," she was right. 8 months after the war began, human forces stood at the edge of Velkath space. They had taken or destroyed every forward base. They had captured dozens of systems. The Velkath fleet was scattered and demoralized. And now humanity was ready for the final push. The assault on Velkara Prime, the Velkath throne world. Jiwan Park assembled the largest fleet humanity had ever gathered. 10,000 warships, thousands of support vessels, hundreds of thousands of soldiers. They gathered in dark space hidden from Velkath sensors, preparing for the battle that would end the war. "Remember," So Min-yoon said in her final briefing, "we're not conquering the Velkath. We're not exterminating them. We're ending their ability to threaten us. There's a difference. We fight with cold resolve, not hot hatred. We do what must be done, nothing more." Hyunwoo Kim joined the fleet. He would be there for the surrender negotiations. Because there would be a surrender. The alternative was too terrible to consider. War Marshal Krethvon stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the displays with growing confusion. His fleet had just passed Jupiter's orbit. According to intelligence, Earth's defense fleet should have been here, ready to meet them in honorable combat. But there was nothing. Just empty space and silence. Scan again, he ordered. Where are they hiding? His sensor officer checked the displays. No contacts, War Marshal, no ships. No energy signatures, nothing. Krethvon felt the first stirring of doubt. Were the humans really so cowardly that they wouldn't even defend their home world? Or was this a trap? Proceed cautiously, he ordered. Full sensor sweep. Watch for ambushes. The Velkath fleet moved forward, 1,200 warships advancing in perfect formation. They had fought battles for millennia. They knew every tactic, every strategy. They were ready for anything. They weren't ready for what came next. Captain Doyen Lee watched from his stealth ship, the Resolute, hidden in the shadow of a small asteroid. His sensors tracked the Velkath fleet's every movement. He checked the countdown timer. 3 minutes until the mines activated. All ships stand by. He transmitted on the encrypted channel. Let them come. Across the solar system, other human ships waited in the darkness. G1 Park commanded from the Ghost Fleet's flagship. Her crew sat at their stations, silent and focused. They had trained for this their entire lives. Now the training was over. Krethvon's fleet reached the designated point. The mines activated. They had been floating in space for 3 weeks, cold and dark. The Velkath sensors had passed over them dozens of times without detecting anything. Now they came to life. Autonomous systems identified the nearest targets. Engines fired. They began to move, War Marshal, the sensor officer shouted. Multiple contacts. Small objects accelerating toward us from all directions. Defensive fire, Krethvon ordered. Destroy them. But there were too many. Hundreds of mines, each one guided by sophisticated AI, each one maneuvering to avoid the Velkath weapons fire. They struck the fleet's outer ships first. Explosions bloomed in the darkness. Shields failed. Hulls tore apart. In the first 30 seconds, 50 Velkath ships died. Evasive maneuvers, Krethvon screamed. Break formation. But breaking formation made them more vulnerable to the next attack. The kinetic kill vehicles arrived. They had been launched weeks ago from hidden platforms throughout the solar system. Simple projectiles, just dense metal accelerated to tremendous speeds. No shields could stop them. No armor could withstand them. They struck with the force of nuclear weapons. Another 100 ships disappeared from Krethvon's displays. What is happening? He demanded. Where are these attacks coming from? No one had answers. The mines were gone now, either destroyed or expended. But the damage was done. The Velkath fleet was in chaos. Ships scattered across thousands of kilometers of space. Shields failing, crews panicking. Then the drone swarms arrived. Each drone was small, barely larger than a human fist, but there were millions of them, flowing through space like schools of metallic fish. They swarmed over the Velkath ships, attaching themselves to hulls, finding weak points, burrowing into engine compartments and weapon systems. The drones didn't explode. They didn't need to. They simply destroyed critical systems, life support, navigation, communications. A ship might survive the attack but be left helpless, drifting in space while its crew slowly suffocated. This is impossible, Krethvon shouted. These weapons are banned. The Concordat forbids autonomous warfare. The Concordat is dissolved. His second officer reminded him quietly. You dissolved it yourself, War Marshal. Krethvon realized his mistake too late. By ending the peace, he had freed humanity from the rules that had restrained them. Now there were no rules. Only survival. Rally the fleet, he ordered. We still outnumber them. When their ships appear, we'll overwhelm them with firepower. But the human ships didn't appear. Not yet. Admiral Junho Han sat in his office on Earth monitoring the Velkath fleet's communications. His teams had cracked their encryption months ago. He listened to the panic, the confusion, the fear spreading through their ranks. Now was the time for the next phase. He activated the broadcast system. Every Velkath ship suddenly received the same transmission. It showed Earth's history. Ancient wars, soldiers fighting in trenches, cities destroyed by atomic weapons, chemical attacks that killed millions, biological warfare, cyber attacks, psychological torture. You wanted war, a human voice said over the broadcast. Welcome to our nightmare. This is what we did to ourselves. Imagine what we'll do to you. The images continued. Footage from old Earth movies about alien invasions. In every one, the aliens came to conquer. In every one, humanity won. Through cunning. Through brutality. Through absolute refusal to surrender. The Velkath soldiers watched in horror. They had grown up during the long peace. They had never seen violence like this. Their own history was sanitized, filled with honorable battles and glorious victories. This was different. This was raw, ugly, terrifying. Turn it off. Krethvan ordered. Block the transmission. But his communications officers couldn't. The human signal was too strong, broadcast on too many frequencies. It played on every screen, every display, every communication device in the fleet. Young Velkath warriors began to question their orders. Why had they come here? Why had they provoked the Death World species? The humans had been peaceful, quiet, no threat to anyone, until the Velkath forced their hand. War Marshal, his tactical officer said nervously. Perhaps we should withdraw, regroup, assess the situation. Withdraw? Krethvan's face turned dark with rage. Never, we are Velkath. We do not run from primitives. Reform the fleet. We advance on Earth. We will bombard their world from orbit. That will end this. The surviving ships formed up again. Nearly 400 ships were gone, destroyed, or disabled in less than an hour. But Krethvan still had 800 warships. More than enough to defeat any planetary defense. He pushed forward toward Earth. Jiwan Park watched the Velkath fleet advance. They had learned nothing. Still thinking in terms of traditional warfare. Still believing that numbers and firepower would win the day. All ships, she transmitted. Execute attack pattern Delta. Hit and fade. Maximum range. Minimum exposure. The ghost fleet appeared at the edge of the Velkath sensors range. 50 ships emerging from stealth. They fired immediately. Coordinated strikes targeting information provided by AI that had calculated the optimal damage points on every Velkath ship design. Beam weapons cut through the darkness. Missiles streaked across space. The Velkath ship's shields flared and failed. Ships died. Before the Velkath could return fire, the human ships vanished. They jumped away using short-range, faster-than-light drives, reappearing in a different location entirely. And they attacked again. From a new angle, new targets, more destruction, cowards, Krethvan screamed. Fight us properly. But the humans didn't care about fighting properly. They cared about winning. The pattern repeated. Appear, fire, vanish. Appear somewhere else. Fire again. Each attack lasted only seconds, but each attack destroyed ships. The Velkath couldn't respond. Their weapons couldn't reach enemies who refused to stay in one place. This isn't warfare, Krethvan's tactical officer protested. This is ambush tactics, piracy, they have no honor. They have effectiveness, Doyen Lee said, though no one on the Velkath ship could hear him. He guided the Resolute through the chaos, coordinating the attacks. Honor doesn't protect your people. Victory does. The battle continued for 3 hours. The Velkath fleet got closer to Earth, but the cost was terrible. Every kilometer forward cost them ships. Krethvan's 800 vessels became 700, then 600, then 500. Finally, Earth came into view, the blue world that humanity called home. Krethvan felt a surge of triumph. Prepare bombardment weapons. We will turn their planet to ash. War Marshal, his sensor officer said weakly. I'm detecting massive energy signatures. From Mars. Mars is an uninhabited rock, Krethvan snapped. Ignore it. Focus on Earth. Sir, the energy readings are increasing. I think the Mars defense grid fired. 3,000 railguns hidden beneath the surface of the red planet activated simultaneously. They hurled projectiles at impossible speeds. Solid metal slugs, each one carrying tremendous kinetic energy, crossing the distance between Mars and the Velkath fleet in seconds. The projectiles struck like the hammer of an angry god. Ships simply disintegrated. Shields meant nothing. Armor meant nothing. The kinetic force was too great. Matter meeting matter at relativistic speeds. The results were catastrophic. In 30 seconds, 200 Velkath ships ceased to exist. Krethvan stared at his displays in disbelief. Half his fleet was gone. The finest warships in the Velkath Empire reduced to debris and radiation. Retreat, he whispered. What? His second officer asked. Retreat! Krethvan screamed. All ships withdraw. Get us out of this system. The surviving Velkath ships turned and ran. They activated their faster-than-light drives in a panic, desperate to escape. Many collided with debris. Some miscalculated their jumps and vanished into dark space, never to be seen again. Of the 1,200 ships that had entered the Sol system, only 47 escaped. Krethvan was not among them. His flagship took a direct hit from a railgun projectile during the retreat. 3 days passed like a held breath. The Velkath Ninth Fleet moved through space toward Earth, confident and unstoppable. War Marshal Krethvan spent those days planning his victory celebration. He would make Earth's surrender legendary. Other species would hear the story for centuries. He didn't know that humanity was watching his every move. Deep in Earth's command center, Minji Choi stood before a massive display showing the approaching fleet. Beside her, Admiral So Min-yoon studied the formation with cold interest. "They're not even trying to hide," Minji observed. "They're broadcasting their position on all frequencies. They want us to see them coming, because they think it will scare us," Somin replied. "They're used to enemies who break under pressure, species who panic and surrender before the first shot is fired." "We're not going to surrender," Minji said. "It wasn't a question." "No," Somin agreed. "We're going to teach them a lesson they'll never forget." She turned to address the assembled council. Admiral Junho Han sat reviewing intelligence reports. General Taehyung Shin was coordinating with his ground forces. Captain Doyen Lee appeared via hologram from his ship, the Resolute, somewhere in the darkness beyond Neptune. Commander Yoonji Kwan, leader of the Special Operations Forces, stood at attention. Her genetic enhancements made her stronger and faster than normal humans. But she was still human where it mattered, in her mind, in her determination. And Commander Ji-won Park, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, would command the Ghost Fleet in the coming battle. "Project Prometheus is now active," Somin announced. "For 3,000 years we've hidden our true capabilities. Today the galaxy learns what humanity built in the dark." Minji activated a new display, the room filled with holographic images of ships. Thousands of ships, they hung in the darkness of space like sleeping dragons waiting to wake. 50,000 warships, Minji said, built in secret, hidden in the Oort cloud, in hollow asteroids, in dark space stations that don't appear on any charts. Each one designed with one purpose: to win battles as efficiently as possible. A young officer raised his hand. "How did we hide them? The Concordat has sensors everywhere." "We hid them the same way we hide anything," Junho Han answered, "by understanding how the sensors work, then exploiting their weaknesses. The Concordat's monitoring systems are designed to detect large-scale military construction. We built small-scale facilities in thousands of locations, one ship at a time, one component at a time, spread across 3,000 years. But the resources," the officer protested, "the energy signatures. Someone should have noticed." "They did notice," Junho said with a slight smile. "They noticed that humanity was very interested in asteroid mining, in deep space research, in archaeological exploration of the outer system. They thought we were scientists and miners. They never imagined we were building a war fleet." Taehyung Shin pulled up another display. "The ground forces are just as prepared. 2 million soldiers. 10,000 of them are enhanced. Faster, stronger, better able to survive in hostile environments. They've trained in every possible combat scenario, every type of terrain, every enemy tactic we could imagine. The Velkath fight for glory," Yoonji Kwan added. Her voice was quiet but intense. "They think war is about honor and bravery. They challenge enemies to single combat. They give warnings before attacks. They have rules about acceptable behavior in warfare. We have one rule," Somin said. "Win." Doyen Lee spoke from his hologram. "What are our actual tactics? The Velkath will expect us to meet them near Jupiter. A traditional fleet engagement. Ship against ship." "Which is why we won't do that," Jawan answered. She brought up her own tactical display. "We're going to let them enter the Sol system. Let them feel confident. Then we're going to hit them with everything they don't expect." She highlighted several locations. Autonomous minefields positioned 3 weeks ago. They're using stealth technology. The Velkath sensors won't detect them until it's too late. Kinetic kill vehicles launched from hidden platforms. They're already accelerating. By the time they reach the Velkath fleet, they'll be moving at a significant fraction of light speed. Nothing can stop them. Nothing can dodge them. Drone swarms, Minji added, controlled by artificial intelligence. The Concordat banned AI warfare because it was too efficient. The machines don't hesitate. Don't feel fear. Don't make mistakes. Each drone is expendable, but together they're devastating. "And the Ghost Fleet?" someone asked. Jiwan's expression hardened. "We don't engage in honorable combat. We appear at maximum weapon range. Fire-coordinated strikes calculated by AI for maximum damage. Then jump away before they can return fire. We hit them again from a different angle. And again, we bleed them until they break. That's not honorable, the young officer said quietly. No. Somin agreed. It's not. It's effective. The Velkath think war is a game with rules. They're wrong. War is survival. You use every advantage. You exploit every weakness. You do whatever it takes to protect your people. Junho Han stood. My division will handle psychological warfare. We're going to broadcast directly into their fleet communications, show them videos from Earth's history, our world wars, our atomic weapons, our engineered plagues, everything we did to each other before we reached the stars. We want them to understand what kind of species they're fighting. Will that work? Someone asked. Maybe, maybe not, Junho said. But it will make them doubt. Doubt is almost as good as fear. A soldier who doubts is a soldier who hesitates, and hesitation in combat is fatal. Minji brought up a new image. Earth. The blue-green world that humanity called home. They'll try to bombard Earth from orbit. Krethvan's entire strategy depends on making an example of us. He wants to turn our homeworld to glass. Let him try, Somin said coldly. Activate the Mars defense grid. The display shifted to show Mars, but it wasn't the red planet that everyone knew. Hidden beneath the surface were massive structures. Railguns, hundreds of them, built into the planet itself over centuries of secret construction. They can fire projectiles at 0.3% light speed, Minji explained. Each projectile carries the kinetic energy of a small atomic bomb. We have 3,000 rounds ready. Mars doesn't look like a weapon. It looks like a planet. By the time they realize what it really is, it will be too late. What about casualties? Yunji asked. On our side, the room went quiet. Someone looked at each of them. We will lose ships. We will lose people. Some of you in this room may not survive the coming battle. War has a cost, always. We're paying for 3,000 years of preparation. But we're making the Velkath pay more. How do we know this will work? The young officer asked. We've never tested these weapons in real combat. What if we fail? Somin interrupted. Then humanity dies. The Velkath will exterminate us. They said so themselves. This isn't a negotiation. This isn't a game. This is extinction or survival. We chose survival. Whatever it takes, Doyen Lee spoke again. When do we start? Ji-won checked her display. The Velkath fleet will reach Jupiter's orbit in 6 hours. They'll expect to see our defense fleet there. Instead, they'll see nothing. That will confuse them, make them cautious. They'll proceed slowly looking for traps. And they'll find them, Minji said grimly. Just not the ones they expect. Taehyung Shin looked at his soldiers' deployment plans. If they manage to land ground forces, we'll be ready. But I don't think they'll get that far. They won't, Ji-won promised. This battle will be decided in space. In the dark, where humanity has always been most dangerous. Somin stood and faced the council. 3,000 years ago, our ancestors agreed to peace. They put away their weapons. They stopped training for war. But they were smart. They knew that peace only lasts as long as everyone wants it. The moment someone chooses violence, you need to be ready. So they built this. All of this. The ships. The weapons. The soldiers. The plans. Generation after generation, working in secret, hoping it would never be needed. She paused. Today, we activate everything they built. We honor their sacrifice by using their gifts. And we show the galaxy that humanity hasn't changed. We just stopped showing our teeth. Now the Velkath have forced us to bite. They're going to regret it. The council dispersed to their positions. Ji-won made her way to the shuttle that would take her to the command ship of the Ghost Fleet. Before she left, Minji stopped her. Are you afraid? Minji asked. Ji-won thought about it. Yes, but not of losing. I'm afraid of what we're about to become. The galaxy thinks we're civilized. After this battle, they'll know the truth. We're the species that survived everything Earth threw at us. Ice ages, asteroids, supervolcanoes, predators, diseases, other humans. We survived it all by being more ruthless than anything else on our world. Maybe they need to know, Minji said quietly. Maybe the galaxy has been peaceful for too long. Maybe they forgot that peace isn't natural. It's chosen. And the choice only matters if you're strong enough to choose violence and decide not to. Ji-won nodded and headed for her ship. Behind her, Earth prepared for war. The weapons came online. The soldiers took their positions. The ghost fleet powered up their engines, and in the darkness humanity waited with cold resolve. Commander Ji-Wan Park stood at the observation window of Earth's orbital station, watching the stars. 3,000 years of peace had made moments like these feel eternal. The galaxy was quiet, safe, predictable. Her communicator beeped. "Commander, we're receiving a priority broadcast from the Concordat homeworld." Ji-Wan walked to the command center. Screens flickered to life, showing the grand chamber where representatives from 800 worlds gathered. She recognized Hyun-Woo Kim among them, Earth's chief diplomat. He looked worried. The Velkath ambassador stepped forward. The Velkath were ancient, respected. They had helped create the peace that had lasted for millennia. But something was different now. The ambassador's eyes held no warmth. "The Concordat is dissolved," the Velkath announced. His voice echoed across every communication channel in known space. "For 3,000 years we have kept peace. But peace makes species weak, soft. We have decided to restore the natural order. The strong will rule. The weak will serve or die." Ji-Wan felt her blood run cold. Around the chamber, diplomats from hundreds of worlds began shouting. The Velkath ambassador raised one hand. 3 guards stepped forward and executed 3 diplomats who had protested too loudly. The bodies fell. The chamber went silent. "We claim 200 systems as Velkath territory," the ambassador continued. "This includes Earth's sector. You have 72 hours to surrender your sovereignty. If you refuse, we will cleanse your worlds." The broadcast ended. Ji-Wan stood frozen for a moment. Then she moved. "Get me Admiral So-Min Yoon, now." Across the solar system, alarms began to sound. On Earth, in the underground command center, Admiral So-Min Yoon was already gathering her council. When Ji-Wan's face appeared on the screen, So-Min nodded once. "You saw it," So-Min said. "It wasn't a question. What do we do?" Ji-Wan asked. "We remember who we are," So-Min replied. "Come to Earth, bring your senior staff. We have things to discuss." 6 hours later, Ji-Wan stood in a room she didn't know existed. Deep beneath Earth's surface, behind doors that required genetic verification and codes that changed every hour, was the archive. So-Min walked her through corridors lined with data storage. "What is this place?" Ji-Wan asked. "Memory," So-Min said. "When humanity joined the Concordat 3,000 years ago, we agreed to become peaceful. We stopped making weapons. We stopped training for war, but we didn't forget. We kept every record, every battle plan, every weapon design, every tactical manual from every war we ever fought." She stopped at a massive screen and activated it. Images flashed past. Ancient Earth wars, soldiers in trenches, atomic bombs, chemical weapons, cyber attacks, biological warfare, centuries of human conflict, preserved in perfect detail. "They think 72 hours is enough time to make us afraid," So-Min said. "They don't understand. We've been preparing for this moment for 3,000 years. Ji-Wan stared at the images. "I don't understand." The peace treaty forbids military expansion," So-Min interrupted. "It says nothing about research, or contingency planning, or maintaining certain capabilities in secret." She smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator. "The Velkath have had 3,000 years of peace. We've had 3,000 years of preparation." Over the next 2 days, Ji-Wan learned the truth. Earth's visible defense fleet consisted of 200 ships. Standard Concordat designs, nothing impressive. But hidden in the darkness beyond Neptune, in hollowed asteroids and camouflage stations, humanity had built something else. 50,000 warships. Each one designed with knowledge gained from 10,000 years of human warfare. Ships that didn't follow Concordat guidelines. Ships built to kill. Captain Doyen Lee commanded one of them. His ship, the Resolute, had never appeared on any official registry. He and his crew had trained in secret their entire lives, running simulations of battles that might never happen. Until now. Minji Choi, the chief science officer, showed Ji-Wan the weapons. "We couldn't test them," she explained. "That would have been detected. But the designs are solid. Kinetic kill vehicles, directed energy weapons, AI-controlled drone swarms, things the Concordat banned because they were too effective." "Too effective at killing," Ji-Wan said quietly. "Yes," Minji agreed. "The other species wanted war to be honorable, fair. They created rules about acceptable weapons and acceptable tactics. We studied those rules. Then we built everything the rules forbid. General Tae-hyung Shin commanded the ground forces. We have 2 million soldiers, he told the council. Not all of them are fully human anymore. Some volunteered for genetic enhancement, faster reflexes, better endurance, improved healing. We call them war forms. They've trained their entire lives for combat that we hoped would never come. Admiral Junho Han ran intelligence and psychological warfare. We've been monitoring the Velkath for centuries, he reported. We know their fleet compositions, their supply lines, their command structure. We know how they think. They fight for glory and honor. They see war as a test of courage. And we don't, Soman said. No, Junho agreed. We see war as a problem to be solved. The most efficient solution wins. Honor is irrelevant. Glory is meaningless. Only survival matters. With 71 hours elapsed, Soman made the decision. Earth would respond, but not with a plea for mercy, not with an offer to negotiate. The broadcast went out across all frequencies. Soman stood alone before the camera, wearing her admiral's uniform. Her face was calm. Her voice was steady. The Velkath Empire has declared war on humanity. This declaration is acknowledged. We will respond appropriately. This is your only warning. Withdraw your fleets from human space within 24 hours or accept the consequences. That was all. No threats, no demands, just a simple statement. On the concordant homeworld, Hyunwoo Kim watched the broadcast with other diplomats. They stared in confusion. Earth was one system. The Velkath Empire controlled 87 systems. Their fleets outnumbered Earth's known forces 1,000 to 1. They're bluffing, a Torian ambassador said. They must be, Hyunwoo said nothing. He knew his people better than that. Humans didn't bluff, not about survival. In Velkath space, their war council watched the broadcast and laughed. War Marshal Krethvan, commander of their 9th Fleet, was particularly amused. These primitives threaten us? I will personally teach them humility. Prepare the fleet. We leave for Earth immediately. Should we wait? One of his officers asked. They asked for 24 hours. They asked for nothing, Krethvan snapped. They gave us an ultimatum. How dare they? No, we will arrive at Earth in 3 days. Their defenses will crumble. Their world will burn, and the galaxy will remember what happens when you challenge the Velkath Empire. The 9th Fleet departed, 1,200 warships, each one a masterpiece of Velkath engineering. They had never lost a battle. They had never known defeat. On Earth, Jiwon returned to her station. She had new orders now, real orders. Do-Yun Lee was already moving his ship into position. Minji Choi was activating weapon systems that had waited 3,000 years to be used. Tae-hyung Shin was briefing his ground forces. Yonhyo Han was preparing the psychological warfare campaign. Soman called them all for one final meeting before the battle began. They're coming, she said. They think we're weak. They think 3,000 years of peace made us forget who we are. They're wrong. We didn't forget. We just stopped practicing. Now they've given us a reason to remember. She looked at each of them in turn. What we're about to do will change everything. The galaxy thinks humanity is peaceful, civilized, safe. They're about to learn the truth. We are peaceful when we can be. But when we must fight, we don't fight fair. We don't fight honorably. We fight to win. No matter the cost. Jiwon felt something cold settle in her chest, not fear. Something else, resolve. They wanted war, Somin said quietly. Now they'll learn what human war really means. The battle for Velkara Prime began at dawn. Human ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at multiple points around the planet. The Velkath Defense Fleet reacted immediately, moving to intercept. 2,000 ships against 10,000. The numbers alone told the story. But the Velkath fought anyway. This was their homeworld. Their empress. They would die defending it. Admiral Ji-won Park watched the battle unfold from her flagship. She felt no joy in what was about to happen, only necessity. All ships engage at will. Focus on disabling, not destroying. We want prisoners, not corpses. The human fleet moved with practiced precision. They had fought dozens of battles over the past 8 months. They knew what worked. Coordinated strikes, overwhelming firepower at critical points, AI calculated targeting that found weak spots in enemy shields. The Velkath fought bravely. They died bravely. But bravery wasn't enough. Captain Do-Yun Lee commanded a strike group targeting the Velkath command station in orbit. His ships formed a wedge and drove straight toward it, absorbing enemy fire with advanced shields. They got close enough to launch boarding pods. Inside the station, Commander Yoonji Kwon led her special forces through the corridors. The Velkath defenders fought fiercely, but they were defending against tactics they didn't understand. Human soldiers moved in small, coordinated teams. They used stun weapons when possible, lethal force when necessary. Within 3 hours, the command station was captured. With their command structure disrupted, the Velkath fleet began to lose cohesion. Ships fought independently without coordination. The human fleet exploited every gap, every mistake. General Taehyung Shin's ground forces prepared to land on Velkara Prime itself. Transport ships descended through the atmosphere toward the capital city. But they didn't attack the city. Instead, they established positions around it. A siege, not an invasion. "Attention, Velkara Prime," Admiral Soman Yoon's voice broadcast across all frequencies. "Your orbital defenses are destroyed. Your fleet is defeated. You have 2 options. Surrender, or we blockade your world until you starve. Choose wisely. You have 24 hours. In the Imperial Palace, Empress Shrevna met with her remaining advisors. The situation was clear. 70% of her military was gone. 30 systems had declared independence. Economic collapse was imminent. And now the humans surrounded her homeworld. "What are their terms?" she asked. Hyunwoo Kim appeared on the communications screen. The human diplomat looked tired but determined. "Your Majesty, humanity has no desire to rule the Velkath Empire. We want only to ensure you can never threaten us again. Our terms are as follows," he read the list. "Immediate cessation of hostilities. The Velkath Empire reduced to 20 core systems. War reparations in technology and resources. Military forces limited to defensive capabilities only. Human observers stationed on Velkara Prime for 100 years to ensure compliance." "These terms are humiliating," Shrevna said. "These terms are survival," Hyunwoo replied. "The alternative is the complete destruction of your civilization. You started this war believing humanity was weak. You were wrong. Now you pay the price, but at least you get to survive. That's more mercy than you offered us." Shrevna looked at her advisors. They had no solutions, no alternatives, no hope. "How long do I have to decide?" 24 hours, Hyunwoo said. "After that, the blockade begins. Your people will starve while your military watches helplessly. Is your pride worth their lives?" Shrevna dismissed the transmission. She sat alone in her throne room thinking. 3,000 years of peace had made the Velkath soft. They had forgotten the real cost of war. They had believed their own propaganda about glory and honor. But war wasn't glorious. It was brutal, efficient, and humanity was very good at it. She made her decision. 23 hours later, the Velkath Empress broadcast her surrender. The war was over. The news spread through the galaxy within hours. Humanity, the peaceful species, had defeated the Velkath Empire in less than a year. Species that had cowered before Velkath power now whispered nervously about human capabilities. Some sent diplomatic messages, seeking alliances. Others simply watched and waited. On Earth, celebrations were muted. Admiral Soman Yoon stood at the memorial wall reading names. 400,000 humans had died in the war. Not a large number compared to Velkath casualties, but each one had been someone's child, parent, friend. Each one had mattered. "We won," Jiwon Park said, standing beside her. "Yes," Soman agreed. "At great cost. Was it worth it?" Soman considered the question. The alternative was extinction. So yes, it was worth it. But that doesn't make it easy. That doesn't erase the loss. We did what we had to do. Now we live with it. Minji Choi arrived to join them. She had been working on Velkath worlds, helping rebuild infrastructure damaged in the fighting. "They're scared of us," she reported. "The Velkath civilians. They see humans as monsters, as demons who fight without honor." "Good," Soman said coldly. "Let them be scared. Fear prevents future wars better than treaties do." "But we also need to show them we're not monsters," Minji protested. "That we can be generous in victory. Otherwise, we're just proving them right about us." "We will be generous," Somin promised. "We'll help them rebuild. We'll establish trade. We'll show them that humanity prefers peace. But we'll also make sure they never forget what happens when you force us to fight. That's the balance. Mercy and strength. Compassion and resolve." Doyen Lee was promoted to Fleet Admiral, taking over from Jiwon, who moved to overall strategic command. Most of the Ghost Fleet was decommissioned, ships hidden away again in the darkness. But key elements remained active, a reminder of human capabilities. Hyunwoo Kim helped establish the new Concordat. Representatives from 500 species gathered to create new rules for galactic civilization. This time there were differences. Military readiness was no longer shameful. Species were allowed to maintain defensive forces, and there were consequences for breaking the peace. We learned an important lesson, Hyunwoo told the assembly. Peace doesn't mean being helpless. True peace comes from mutual respect, and respect requires strength. The old Concordat tried to eliminate military power entirely. That was naive. The new Concordat will be stronger because we acknowledge reality. 3 years after the war ended, General Taehyung Shin visited a Velkath school. He gave a lecture on military history to young students. They listened nervously. These children who had grown up during the war, hearing stories about the terrible humans who destroyed their empire's fleets. Your empire made a mistake, Taehyung told them. They believed their own propaganda. They thought 3,000 years of peace meant humanity had forgotten how to fight. But we didn't forget. We just chose not to fight. There's a difference. Choice requires the ability to do otherwise. A person who can't fight isn't peaceful. They're just harmless. Humanity chose peace. When your empire took away that choice, they discovered what we were choosing not to do. A young Velkath raised her hand. Do you regret the war? Taehyung thought carefully. I regret every death. Every ship destroyed. Every family broken. I regret that your leaders made the choices they did. But I don't regret defending my species. That's what soldiers do. We carry the burden so others don't have to. Will there be another war? The student asked. I hope not, Taehyung said honestly. But if there is, humanity will be ready. We're always ready. That's the point. Being ready means we don't have to fight. Potential enemies see our strength and choose peace instead. That's the lesson your empire learned too late. On Earth, at the Memorial for Fallen Soldiers, Admiral Soman Yoon gave a speech to mark the war's 5th anniversary. Thousands attended, including many Velkath who had come to pay respects. 5 years ago, the galaxy forced humanity to remember who we are. Soman began. For 3,000 years, we pretended to forget. We acted civilized, peaceful, safe. But evolution doesn't erase survival instincts. It refines them. When the Velkath came for us, they expected warriors drunk on glory. They found something worse. They found soldiers with cold resolve. She gestured to the memorial wall. These names represent those who gave everything. They fought not for glory or honor or conquest. They fought for survival, for their families, for their species. And they fought with terrible efficiency because that's what survival requires. Some species still call us monsters, Soman continued. They say we fight without honor. They're right. We don't fight for honor. We fight to win. We fight to protect. We use every advantage, every tactic, every weapon that gives us an edge. Because in war, second place means extinction. She paused, looking at the Velkath in the audience. But we also show mercy. We rebuild what we destroy. We heal the wounds we inflict. We demonstrate that humanity prefers peace. We just refuse to be victims. That's the message this memorial sends to the galaxy. Humanity desires peace, but we remember war, and we are very, very good at it. Choose wisely which one you receive. The ceremony ended quietly. People dispersed, heading back to their lives. The war was over. Life continued. 30 years later, a young Velkath student named Kira studied at the Human University on New Sol Station. She was writing a thesis on military history, focusing on the war that had shaped her childhood. She requested an interview with Jiwon Park,